Janette Marks is a dynamic CEO running a multi-billion-dollar company that goes all over the world. She has had many, many successes, but perhaps her best success, or the one that means the most to her, was finding a way to get through breast cancer. She taught us some incredible things, and some of the things that I had never heard before, including make sure your doctor knows about your lifestyle. I'd never heard that. I couldn't imagine being in a doctor's office and saying, here's my lifestyle, my treatment needs to work around it. But she's going to tell us how she did it and why it's so important to her recovery. When you subscribe to our show, you help us grow. Someone you know may need to hear this story. So please share with your family and friends. And consider supporting our mission. Your donation can help save the life of an uninsured woman. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Thank you so much for being with us today. I am tickled that you're here to talk about your journey and your experience. But first, tell us about your role as a CEO before you were ever diagnosed. Just tell us what all your job requires.
I would love to. So I am Janette Marks, the CEO of AirSwift. And AirSwift is a global workforce solutions company. We place engineers all over the world into the energy, process, and infrastructure industries. So we have contractors out in 71 different countries around the world. So what that means is I get the joys of traveling and seeing different cultures and seeing the world from a very different lens. So I've been to more than 50 different countries. And before my diagnosis, it's all about building my company, scaling my company, working with my teams, working with my clients, traveling, and really just being there and being fully present.
Oh, my goodness. So what got you into this business?
I fell into the world of workforce solutions.
Oh.
So it's not something that anybody ever really goes to school for and says, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to do recruitment, or I want to go, into helping people find jobs and really exploring their career aspirations. So I completely fell into it a long time ago. And when I fell into it, I fell in love with it. And so it has been my absolute, dream of a career. I was 19 years with one company, and I've been with AirSwift for 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, go to your diagnosis. Tell us about how that even came about. I think that's a fascinating story.
So for the last 8 years, I've been on the CEOs Against Cancer, and that's here in the Houston area, where I joined it as a founding member because I really wanted to put health and wellness at the forefront of what we do for all of our employees. And so every CEO I'm on that with, we're out there preaching early screening, early detection, do all the things right, everything about all of our walks and our health and our wellness. So I've been an ambassador sharing that for that many years out in Papua New Guinea to different countries where we supported 29 different cancer societies. So I feel like that was a blessing in disguise for me, because what that meant was I did my mammograms every year like clockwork. I did not miss it. I made sure I was always getting my mammogram at the scheduled time. And in November, December of 2022, I went in and got a mammogram, and then I got a call back. And they said, we think we need you to come back in. We didn't get a clear image. So I thought nothing of it. I just thought they didn't get a clear image and, the tech was new or, they just needed it again, whatever it may be. Okay. So I went back in January and after Christmas, and that time the tech had me go back and forth into the room 4 different times. And I looked at her and I said, you found something. I'm like, you're looking for something. And she was like, well, Janette, yes, we just really need a good image on this side. And then they came back out and said, we need you to go in and get an ultrasound. I was there for 4 hours, working through it all. My mammogram caught my breast cancer. My mammogram saved my life. So it wasn't something I could feel at the time. It wasn't something my doctors felt after my annual exam. So it was really the mammogram that caught it.
We're talking very early, and we're talking lots of options for treatment. But I think that one of the things I've heard you say is you had a friend who said when you go to talk to the oncologist, you have to tell him or her about you.
Yeah.
I've never heard that advice before. So explain how that came around.
So we're all people. Our doctors are people too. And when I found out that I had stage 2 breast cancer and I went and did my MRI and I was getting more and more information as it went. One of my really dear friends is a doctor. And so I pulled her in immediately and I'm like, I need to talk to you. What do I do? Because it's nothing that you ever think is going to hit you. It's always a surprise. You're like, what? I've done everything right. I exercise. I eat clean. I've done everything right. And she was such a good friend to me through this process. And her piece of advice was when you go to your very first appointment, the doctor needs to know you. The doctor needs to know Janette, not Janette the patient, but Janette, who you're all about, what you're all about, your family, your volunteer work, what you do for work, like everything about you, how you travel. Just let them know you as a person. And so I took that advice, and the first time I met with Dr. Emily Robinson, who was my surgical oncologist, amazing, and love her to death. And the first time I met with her, we sat down and I just shared with her. And then she shared with me more about her and her practice and what she does. And it led to a completely different first, quote, meeting with an oncologist where we were able to really map out what my treatment needed to be. Like she pulled up the MRI scan. She showed me in detail. We went through all the things you do medically, but it felt like I was talking to a friend. Felt like I had a friend next to me who was locking arms with me and we were going to go on this journey together.
And you really had great information coming from her. You didn't feel like you had to re-ask or...
No, I had researched her ahead of time, of course, and asked other people who had gone through this and gotten feedback and gotten references. And all of that was, of course, very, very good. So I went into it hopeful that this would be my oncologist, because that's the other thing that women need to think about. You can choose your doctors. So you can choose them. So if you don't feel like you have the right connection, if you don't feel like they're the right person, go to another doctor. Here in the U.S., we have the right to choose. So you can choose your doctor. And I have another friend who went through this at the same time as me, and she did just that. Like the day before she was supposed to go in for an operation, she didn't feel right about it, and she switched her doctor team up. And she ended up in a great place. So you sometimes need to understand that you do have a little bit of control through this in some of the decisions that you get to make, and it's okay to lean into that and make the decisions that make you feel comfortable.
Oh, that is such great advice. Yeah. And to ask the questions, and if you're not getting answers, then be sure to go back and ask again.
That's right.
I have never heard that advice in all these years. I've never heard someone say, tell them about you. Yeah. That's a really important thing.
I have my 3 main doctors, I have their cell phone numbers. I could text them when I needed something, but I got close to them. And I made sure with all 3 of them, my medical oncologist and then my plastic surgeon for my reconstruction, that we were in this together. And I felt that with them. So I felt like they had my best interests in mind. And I felt like I just had a team that surrounded me to help me stay positive and really just fight this in a way that would make me stronger when I got through it than when I entered it.
So tell me about the rest of your support system.
Yeah. My support system's wonderful. So I have been married for 29 years, and my husband was there with me every single step of this. So from the very first moment so when you do 4 hours of mammograms and ultrasounds and you go home, I sat in my car and I cried for quite a while. They didn't tell me I had breast cancer then, but you kind of just knew. And then you look up the probabilities and it says less than 3%. And I'm like, no, the radiologist was pretty direct and they wouldn't let me leave without scheduling the biopsy. And so by the time I got home, I had to make sure I was good to drive. By the time I got home and I saw my husband, he just hugged me and he's like, you're going to be fine. You don't know yet. We got to take one day at a time. Oh. So when you have a support system like that, it really helps you just position to get through it all. deciding when to tell our son and he just got married last month, our son and his wife, that was hard too, because you don't want them to be worried about you. So when you're in a position of where you've got people around you that love you, you want to be able to carry the burden. But in part, you need to be able to share it so that they can support you and you allow them to support you. So finding the right timing for that, there's no right or wrong answer to that. But we waited till we had a little bit more information. We waited till I had my biopsy. We waited till after that, and I knew for sure that it was cancer. And then I told my son and his wife, who, again, absolutely wonderful people. So they're in their 20s. My son had worked in medical for a bit, so he had a little bit better of a temperament about it, and understood a little bit more. And then I went to my family, my sisters, my mom, my dad, like my especially my sisters, who I was like, go get your mammograms. Are you up on it?
Yeah, right.
And so as you start to spread out and tell, like first it was just family. I'm like, I need to get my MRI next. I didn't tell work yet because I was like, I don't know what the treatment's going to be. I don't know what it means. And I don't like living in the unknown. When you live in the unknown, people always tend to go to the worst case scenarios.
Oh, true.
And so it's really hard. You've got to practice really hard in your mind to get your mindset right, to not go there and to stay positive and to know if you don't know it, it doesn't mean it's the worst case scenario. It could be the best case scenario. And you've got to stay focused on that to help yourself, get through a place and be in a place of healing. And so once I met with my oncologist and actually understood what I had and what the possibilities were, I didn't know if I was going to need radiation, chemo. I didn't know everything else yet. We had more tests that we needed to run. But I did know that I had 3 tumors. One was growing, and she was like, "We need to get it out of you, right away." And so 3 days later, I get a call from her, and she's like, "Can you come in a week? We have an opening." And I was like, "Oh crap! Okay, I guess this means I need to tell everybody at work." Because once you go into surgery, and if I'm going to do a mastectomy, okay,
Yeah, you might be absent just a
I
tiny
might be
bit
out
there.
for a minute.
Right.
So I shared with my direct reports. I shared with my board. Shared with my chairman. And again,
How did you share? I mean, you have this huge team around you. You have this huge workforce.
It's kind of interesting. So on my board, the men I shared with one-to-one. So I shared with my chairman, and I shared with my private equity company. We're private equity backed. And I allowed them to, of course, share with the rest of the board. For my direct reports, I shared one-to-one with my male direct reports. And then I pulled all the females in together. And we actually had almost there was 10 of us in my room, in my office. And we had, and not all of them were direct reports, but they're all people that work with me on a regular basis. And I had a heart-to-heart with them. And it was emotional. But we had I had a different message for them than I did for the men. Because for them, I was like, okay, you're all different ages. Have you all gotten your screening? Where are you at with taking care of yourself? And so it turned into kind of a lesson of everybody leave and go get your mammogram scheduled. You don't know where you're going to be. You don't know what's going to happen. We've got to get this taken care of. And we opened it up to have just an open conversation about what does it mean? What are the next steps? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what all the next steps are going to be, but I know that I'm going to get through it because I have all of you supporting me. And their support and the way they rose above, that's all you need when you're going through a time like this, because never in my life, never in my career have I had to step out and say, I can't be there. And knowing what I was going to go through and knowing what the reconstruction was going to be in front of me no matter what. And that's a really in-depth, surgery where you're out for a while. I was like, okay, I've got to pull on my succession plan and my emergency lever as CEO, and you guys all need to step up and here you go. And they did it. But I was real. I was me. I was authentic. I was, it's just, I was honest. Yeah. And when you're honest, I don't know, you find others just champion, step up.
We hear that a lot, but it's true.
That's
what you're saying.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I've helped a lot of other people, especially this past year, through their different cancer diagnoses. And it's amazing how many people want to keep it to themselves and not share, even as they're going through it at work. And I think that's fear speaking. And because there is fear that, will they look at me different? Will I not get the right assignments? Will, how will it come? And I think when you really put yourself out there and let those around you support you, you'd be surprised at how much people step up and how much support you really can get.
Oh, that's such a great message.
Yeah.
One we don't often hear.
No.
No.
Yeah. It's just, it's surprised me at how many, because even me, as I was going through it, I didn't know when I wanted to share, and it's a lot in the beginning for yourself to process and for you to get your mind around. And still, I mean, today I still pinch myself. I'm like, did I go through that? Did that just happen? Did I really have cancer?
Yeah.
So, you're still like giving yourself time to wrap your mind around it, but then giving yourself the opportunity to let others help you through it is I don't know, giving them space to feel good in the support they can give.
So now you're basically through treatment.
Yes.
And back at work.
I am, yeah.
100%, running just like you did before.
Oh, even better. I think even more. Yeah.
So what do you think is the difference between you then and you now?
I am a workaholic. I put my everything into my work and my people. And I don't think throwing myself into my work, throwing myself into my people is ever going to change. But now I see life and every day as a blessing. Every day is a blessing. And the things that happen, there's challenges that happen every day in work, in life, with friends, in the community, whatever it may be. There are always challenges that come up. And I just see these challenges as, okay, it's like it almost puts you in a different like framework of how to just overcome the issues that arise, whether they're small or big. It's like, we got this.
You don't even categorize them. You just say,
it's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah, let's work through it.
Yeah.
Not even that. It's like, all right, this big issue happened in whatever country or whatever's going on. All right, let's get the team together. Let's work through it. What do we need to do? What have we not done? How can we look at this differently? How do we put our plan together? And it's nothing to get upset about. It's nothing to get riled up about. It's life. It happens. And you know what? I'm blessed to be living that life.
Oh, yes.
So I am so happy, and it's okay.
and you can tell.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yes. So now that you're through, what lies ahead for you in your cancer experience? What's next?
So from a personal point of view, any woman who's gone through breast cancer knows for 5 years you continue to get your hormone therapy. So I'm in the throes of all of that, which brings on a whole nother onset of exciting woman issues that we get to go through, like menopause. So all of that comes up. So personally, I'm just going through my journey. I'm seeing my oncologist on a regular basis, getting my blood work, getting all my tests, making sure that I am exactly where I need to be, and doing everything she tells me to do to reduce the risk of cancer ever coming back. So I am following her advice, and I am making sure that I am in a good place. I will say this, I did opt for a double mastectomy. I did not have to get one. I only had cancer on one side, and we debated that, and that was 100% my choice to decide, do I want to just do my unhealthy side, or do I want to go for a double? I did it for risk mitigation reasons. I did it for peace of mind. When I got all the stats of the likelihood of cancer being on my healthy side, I fast forward and went life in the future at 80 years old. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be back here fighting this and dealing with this, and I won't be as strong as I am today. So I opted for the double.
A difficult decision for anyone.
It's an incredibly difficult decision. It was the best decision I have ever made. When my surgical oncologist did my healthy side, they found cancer that was undetected in my healthy side.
Oh, my.
It was a little bit of an insane process to sit in front of her and understand through my recovery that they had found cancer growing on my healthy side, that the MRI, the mammogram, the ultrasound did not detect. So I know I made the right decision, and I will continue to do what I need to do to make sure that I de-risk, cancer ever flaring up again. Now, from my go forward and to just trying to raise awareness for this all. I love my work with CEOs Against Cancer. We help build the Hope Lodge here in Houston.
Yes.
We're giving a home away from home from those who come to our great city for treatment and for
Yes.
their caregivers. I am speaking more. I'm trying to put myself out there more. It's been hard this year because I'm hitting the year anniversary of a lot of my big events, and that's where I have felt a little bit of the emotion coming through. As I went through it, I was more headstrong and charging ahead and let's go tackle this and tackle this. Now I'm processing, and that's been a little bit of a different experience for me as well. But I want to help others.
But that is so important. I mean, if we don't take time to process even when you can't at the stage you're in and going through it. But I think that's a really important message. It's not always just over.
It is not.
It's like, I know.
It's never over. And I mean, 2 to 3 months after my diagnoses, one of my employees got the same exact breast cancer I did. And I just, here's everything I had. Gave her everything. And we're warrior sisters together now. Here we go. I mean, yesterday I got an email from one of my nonprofits, another colleague who knew I went through it and said her best friend just got diagnosed. What can she do for her? I sent her a long email with a list. This is what you do for her. This is what she needs.
We want you to share that list with our listeners. I mean, there's so many things that in the healthcare world we think that's just what happens. But I'm helping someone right now who is a friend in another state.
Yeah.
No one's talking to her. I'm just amazed. And, I'm telling her, here's what you got to ask. And sometimes that's what we need. Tell us exactly what we need to ask, do,
Absolutely.
have.
It's the loneliest place to be. So when you feel it and there are more cancer patients who feel like loneliness is the hardest thing sometimes for them to overcome. So if you know somebody with cancer, don't think you're bothering them. Reach out to them. Text them daily. Send them notes. Send them old school notes. Send them, it doesn't matter. Just the little acts of kindness are things that just help them build connection. And they need that connection as they work through it because that helps them stay positive. That helps them have something to look forward to. And there are so many things that you can do to help people out. So many beyond food. So everybody goes to food. Everybody needs food. That's good. Beyond food, though, there are so many other things.
Give us some examples.
So an example, breast cancer. The robes that you need to wear after your surgeries are the robes with interior pockets. Women end up with drains after their surgeries, and they need a comfortable place to put them, and to have them out of way of how we move. So Brobe, BROBE, is one of my favorites. So shout out to them. But you can find them on Amazon. You can find them anywhere where they have the interior pockets. Those are important. Pillows. The way that we need pillows that are the ones that you can lay where you're laying up front still. So the wedges, you need wedges. You need, if you think about flying on an airplane and the pillows that you put around, those pillows, you're going to think about them differently for breast cancer. Put them under your arms. I had lymph nodes removed. My arms hurt to move. I put those airplane pillows underneath my arms, and I had an aunt who made some that were super, super special, all with the breast cancer stuff and everything on. But you need a place to rest your arms and to know that you're not going to hurt if you're just naturally going back down. There are little things like that that are just absolutely any woman going through it's going to need that.
It's going to need it, yes.
And I would say some of my close friends were great with the texts, from not just saying I would pray for you, but sending me their prayer in text. Not just saying, good luck today, but coming up with a fight song and sending me my fight song, because you're scared when you go into surgery.
Oh, yeah.
So when you go into surgery, that morning you wake up, you're like, oh, this is going to be a day. And to know that you're going to the hospital and you got your fight song and you're getting your mindset into the right frame of mind of, I got this,
I love all those.
So it's things to help. There are no cost things you can do for your friends, and then there are things that you can do where you show your acts of kindness through sending stuff. Right. So whatever it may be, just do. Don't ask, just do. And don't expect a text or anything back from the person going through it, but know they're going to receive it at the time that they need it. Because when you're medicated, when you're going through it all, it's just Give them the time to relax. Even if it gets lost in the series of them, keep sending them messages because that's what they need.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such great advice. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I think we could talk another 2 hours just on what people could do, but great story. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.